Next up, our partners at the World Patients Alliance are going to be sharing a portion of a webinar that they recently held on fundraising, which covers industry partnerships and best practices. So we appreciate the World Patients Alliance for allowing us to listen in, and to Kathy of BMS and Patty at Pfizer for sharing their experience. So just a quick note on fundraising. This is a very large topic, and it's critical that we address and support our members and advocates who are looking for best practices on how to raise funds. In fact, it's such a big topic that we didn't feel that we could adequately cover all aspects of it in this Congress event. So what we want to do is ask you, what would you like to learn? We know that industry funding is critical, and many of our organizations partner with industry, but it's also really important to diversify funds and build relationships with individuals, foundations, corporations, and that's very challenging to get started. So our ask of you, our members and our advocates that are listening today, is to tell us, how can we help you in your fundraising efforts? It varies so much by country, and we want to make sure that we're providing useful information, news that you can use. So reach out to us, email info@globalcca.org. You can message us on social media, or you can go for it in the chat. We want to know what's going to be useful for you. So like I said, this session is targeted specifically around industry partnerships, and get your notebook ready, because there definitely are a few key elements that ring through loud and clear. So we are very thankful to Bristol Myers Squibb and Pfizer for not only partnering with the World Patients Alliance, but also being a partner of the Global Colon Cancer Association. So I will now turn it over to Hussein Jaffrey, the Executive Director of the World Patients Alliance.
I'm Hussein Jaffrey, and I'm the Executive Director of World Patients Alliance. We are delighted to join you virtually at the Global Colon Cancer Association's 3rd Annual Congress event. We recently held a webinar for our member patient organizations on fundraising, and I'm very pleased to share the insights from our 2 industry seasoned professionals. But before I turn over to experts, I would first like to briefly introduce World Patient Alliance and invite you to learn more about joining as a member. The World Patient Alliance is a non-profit umbrella organization of patients and patients organizations from around the globe. The WPA provides a platform to empower and raise patients' voice for the provision of and access to safe, quality, and affordable healthcare. WPA works to ensure that patients have an active role to play in all stages of healthcare that include planning, provision, monitoring, research, and evaluation of health services. The WPA is made up of more than 341 patient advocacy groups from 110 countries of the world, thus making it the largest global patient organization that's working across all disease areas and in all regions of the world. To learn more about World Patients Alliance, please visit www.worldpatientsalliance.org. And now we hope you'll find these presentations from our partners at Pfizer and Bristol Myers Squibb as educational as we have.
Patty Jewell, and she is the Senior Director, Patient Advocacy, US Co-Lead in Pfizer Global Health and Social Impact Department, basically focusing on collaborating with patient advocacy organizations across the therapeutic areas on public policy and patient centricity initiatives in the US. So prior to this role, Patty led Pfizer's strategic engagement on global and US cancer policy and public affairs matters, and basically focusing on breast cancer and related issues, as well as a portfolio of pan-tumor topics, including health equity and the value of cancer medicines. Patty has also worked in alliance development, state government relations, and grassroots advocacy for Pfizer, and was a legislative assistant to the United States Senator before joining Pfizer. She received a master's in public administration from New York University and bachelor's degree in political science from the University of Michigan. So over to Patty, how best to work with industry.
Thank you so much, Hussein. So good to be with everybody here today. I really appreciate the invitation. I was asked to think about or to talk about how can patient advocacy groups work with and fundraise from the biopharmaceutical industry. So I'd love to start with the idea around independence and respect for the patient advocacy organization's mission. Philosophically, I think it's very important for there to be recognition about the independence of the patient advocacy organizations and the mission and the work that you all do. And it's my experience that people in the pharmaceutical industry very much respect that independence and your mission. And we want to work with you because of the important work that you do to support patients getting the information and care and support that they need for their particular health condition. And I think I would also give the advice that if you don't feel that respect and independence from a pharmaceutical company, then perhaps that's not somebody that you want to work with. So that's foundational. And some of the ideas that I talk about, I just have 2 slides. Some of the ideas that I talk about will also speak to that, and the idea that the pharmaceutical industry, and Pfizer in particular, has put in rules and guidelines to help ensure that independence and respect. So when you think about how to work with a pharmaceutical company and in part with fundraising, we want to be patient focused. We want to be oriented around support for the condition. And I would encourage you not to think just about a particular medication, but about the condition that you're working in. I think that in the past, some of the maybe concerning work or concerning relationships that have taken place is because the work has gotten too close to a particular medicine, and that could lead to the perception that the patient advocacy group is working to sell the medicine. And you don't want that. The pharmaceutical company doesn't want that. One way to avoid that is to focus on the condition and not on a specific medicine. A second point that has come up already today is around open and transparent communication, right? Be clear about your mission and what you want to do. And if there's a specific project, and likewise, ask the pharmaceutical company, what are you interested in here? What are you thinking about? And sometimes those interests will align, and sometimes they might not. And, for that particular project, but maybe in a few months or in a year, there will be alignment. But having that communication, I think, is really helpful and really important. We've also found that it's helpful to have one person at the pharmaceutical company and one person at the patient advocacy group that are known as the key points of contact. Now, they can each work with others, but it's very helpful to be clear on, I'm your lead, I will help you navigate, I'll help you learn. For the pharmaceutical companies, I'll help you learn the different people in the company, the different areas of interest. And for the patient advocacy group, it's the same on your side. You work with a lot of different people. You may not have a big staff, but you work with a lot of volunteers and experts in the community. Another way to help, especially with any concerns around independence and clarity, is to have written agreements in place regarding funding. I think most pharmaceutical companies do this now. I know Pfizer does, and I do think it helps to work through what are the specific arrangements and agreements that are in place. Another idea is that that you could have a program where you would have multiple companies fund one initiative. I think that, again, this helps with the independence, that you're not beholden or doing the work of one particular company. Sometimes there will be programs where it's just one company, but other times you could solicit from multiple companies or a mix of stakeholders, such as foundations or other organizations. And then lastly, the partnerships don't always need to be financial. They can, we have a lot of expertise within pharmaceutical companies whether it's around research or communications or policy advocacy. So perhaps that we participate in a way that's providing a voice at the table that provides some insights that you might not otherwise have. And then I thought it could be helpful to think about some of the similarities between companies and some of the differences. And Kathy, you might, I'll be curious to see if you agree with this, might have additional comments. But to me, what I see in the industry is that there is a lot of respect for the independence of the patient advocacy groups. On the sort of operational and logistical side, we do have rules that govern how we can work with patient advocates, what types of activities we can fund. Now, the complicating side on the differences column is that those rules vary company by company. And I don't envy you all to have to figure out what is the different rules from Pfizer compared to other companies. But we do have rules, and so it is important to understand the rules of the company that you're talking to. Our budget cycles are usually 1 year. And as I mentioned before, we usually do require agreements of legal documentation. There are definitely local laws and cultural norms that you want to be, that matter, that impact how a company in a particular country can work with a patient advocacy group. So get to know your local rules because that really dictates how we can work together oftentimes. I've mentioned that there could be differences in how companies define particular activities. A sponsorship or a collaboration may mean something slightly different from company to company. So make sure to ask your contact, what I want to do this type of activity. What is it called? How could we do that? So that you have clarity about the language and the approach. And similarly, there could be differences in different types of activities that companies could support. One company may want to focus a lot on engaging around research, whereas another might want to focus more on disease education and/or policy advocacy. So talking to your a pharmaceutical company person about what types of activities they like to support could also help you focus on where you want to take your conversation with a company.
Thanks, Betty. I also like the sort of what you said, that partnership can be more than just financial, like research and educational tools and all that. So that's very helpful. Thanks, Betty, for that. So our next speaker is Kathy Trass, and she is the Executive Director and Head of Global Advocacy, Bristol Myers. She has broad advocacy experience gained through leadership roles at Bristol Myers, Endo Pharmaceuticals, and GlaxoSmithKline. She also gained her expertise in health policy and patient advocacy, working for the New Jersey Governor and the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Kathy is the architect of a number of important initiatives, such as the Advocacy Exchange, a global virtual platform created to unite advocacy organizations, patients, and the industry leaders in the exchange of information. Then patient expert engagement research peer, a groundbreaking effort to bring the patient's voice into the business. Then another initiative is the CEO Roundtable, an ongoing meeting with leaders from patient advocacy groups and corporate to discuss best practices related to access to care and outreach to underserved communities. She also leads the health equity and advocacy delivery on commitments announced in the 2020, to which Bristol Myers donated funds to 56 nonprofit organizations serving medically underserved populations. So over to Kathy for her presentation on can working with industry benefit patients.
Thank you, Hussein, for inviting me today. Patty, I totally agree. The pharmaceutical companies are very highly regulated, as you know. There are different rules in different countries around how we can partner and how we can work with organizations. But if you do look at us as the advocate for the advocates inside of the companies, I think that's really where we play a really important role. But what I wanted to talk about just a little bit was about some of the partnerships you can work with the organizations, with the pharmaceutical companies that aren't necessarily, fundraising per se, but a couple of things that I think are important to remember for advocacy organizations. Networking is so very important. That's why I'm actually really missing a lot of these in-person meetings, because I think we lose the opportunity to really build those relationships, network with one another in person, and connect people to the right places, whether it's in their organization or across sectors and across into other organizations. Most of our pharma organizations have giving portals on their websites. So you can go onto that website, you can go to the giving portal and really see, learn about the programs, learn about the diseases that they're focused on. A couple of things I wanted to just focus on today from the Bristol Myers Squibb side of things, ways you can get involved that can help you network and help you get have the patient voice heard. This is a really good way to start to get to know your advocacy teams. We created something called the COVID Advocacy Exchange when COVID first hit. It's now called the Advocacy Exchange, and it's the largest cross-disease, cross-cultural global advocacy initiative right now in healthcare. So this is an online platform. You can go to this at theadvocacyexchange.com. You can register for free. Your organizations, your patients are allowed to participate for free. This is some of the metrics. We have working groups on there. We have live sessions every month. We co-create the content with advocates, again, across diseases and across the world. We actually have people from over 150 now countries who have visited and are participating in the Advocacy Exchange. So we're focused on so many different areas, whether that is diversity and inclusion, health equity, access, even fundraising, and the future of advocacy, especially with this pandemic. So if you want to check it out, like I said, it's free to all of you. Anybody on this call who's willing and wants to check it out, it's a really great resource and a wonderful way to network, as I had mentioned before, because I can't emphasize enough the networking importance. We're going to continue this advocacy exchange. It's a partnership with Grit Health, so they own the platform. And like I said, it's a 24-hour platform meant to be a resource for our advocates, for our patients during this incredibly tough time of not being able to see each other in person and have those in-person meetings. So just check that out if you have a chance. Just one example, I should say, I'm only speaking for Bristol Myers Squibb. Zane mentioned that we have another initiative called PEER, which is our patient expert engagement resource. This is more of an internal process that we've contracted with over 60 advocacy organizations across diseases and across the globe to bring the patient voice into all of what we do at BMS. So we have started to now make this process holistic so that we can contact any of those organizations and talk to them and get feedback from them on drug development, even in the very early stages, whether that's patient preference, patient journey, carer journey, or clinical trial protocols, all the way through, Patty had mentioned. This is just another opportunity for us to be the advocates for you, for the patients, but working directly with you, working with the experts who are the patients, the advocates. We're looking to expand this program outside of the US this year, starting with several different country pilots. And so we're going to be posting that online soon. You'll see a dashboard where our data, the metrics that we're engaging with these advocates on and these patients on, will be posted so that you can see exactly what we're focused on. And I think, again, that'll be very helpful for those who are interested in partnering with us to see if they are indeed in kind of the right area to partner with BMS. And again, we want to use this feedback to get a better understanding of what's needed. And we know that we have a lot of work to do. So this is all on our bms.com site if you want to check it out. And I'll kind of wrap it up here.
Thanks, Kathy. Thanks a lot. Very helpful, and also thanks for re-emphasizing the need to know the disease area in which the industry or the company is interested in, and also to to really look after their footprint. And that again, getting back to the sort of homework that's required for the patient organization to do before contacting or trying to get funding from any industry partners, and also very thankful for highlighting the important online resources of this peer and the advocacy exchange.
Lots of useful advice here, as well as good practices to apply to partnerships of all kinds. We know that globally, partnership opportunity with industry varies greatly by country. As both Patty and Kathy mentioned, this is a highly regulated field. There's not one guide or presentation on partnering with industry that will cover all countries, but in a few minutes, I'll share some ideas to help you become better aware of industry opportunities in your country. The value of partnerships that are not direct financial contributions was highlighted by both Patty and Kathy, and I agree wholeheartedly. Building a relationship with a partner that has multiple layers are more likely to grow into a long-term partnership, which may include financial contributions. One tip I would offer is the importance of knowing what opportunities your organization has to offer for people who are interested in getting involved beyond direct financial contributions. Are there volunteer opportunities that exist, such as at a fundraising event? What types of opportunities does your organization have for people who have a unique and refined skill set? An example of this could be if you have identified a need for a training for your team and advocates on how to become an effective public speaker. Connecting with contacts to let them know that you are looking for an expert to provide a training communicates your needs and offers your partners an opportunity to engage. Another item to keep in mind is that many for-profit companies have days of service, which is typically one day that is reserved for employees to volunteer with a nonprofit organization. As you identify prospects, be sure to ask if they have any initiatives like this. Patty's point about the importance of ensuring that your nonprofit and industry are aligned in what your goals are for a particular partnership is really valid and important to consider. If a potential funder and the nonprofit organization are not on the same page when it comes to the purpose, goals, and execution of the project, then this is most likely a project that should not move forward. It is never worth a donation to compromise your organization's integrity and mission by partnering on a project for a short-term financial gain. Your organization would be at risk of straying from its mission and ethical standards. A strong partner wants your organization to succeed in your goals and initiatives and also respects the nonprofit's organization's guidelines. One tip for those who are seeking funding and specific types of partnerships that are new to your organization, it's incredibly important to define what types of partnership your organization is open to engaging with. Equally important is identifying what types of partnerships and partners that you do not wish to engage with. Statements around not accepting donations from a company that sells products that are known to cause cancer are often included in an organization's gift acceptance policy. Other times, it may not be as obvious as that example. Speak with your board of directors and other key stakeholders for feedback to ensure that internally there is alignment on the types of projects and partners that your organization will or will not engage with. Once you've determined that, you have the beginnings of a gift acceptance policy. This is a document that, among other things, clearly outlines what types of donations your organization can receive and stipulations that may exist around the receipt of particular types of gifts. I have two pieces of advice to patient advocacy organizations that have been looking to partner with industry but have not yet been able to do so. One recommendation is to look at other nonprofits in your country that currently partner with industry. A good place to look to identify these organizations is to visit a nonprofit's website and then look for the sponsors or members section of the site. There's a lot we can learn from other nonprofits, and it doesn't need to be a colorectal cancer organization to get valuable advice. This can be a great starting point to find out from a nonprofit's perspective what partnering with industry is like in your country, including what successes, challenges, and guidance on country-specific regulations that are important for your organization to know. The other recommendation is to compile the information you've gathered. So, as previously mentioned, the research to see the footprint of companies that are active in the colorectal cancer space, feedback that you have from speaking to nonprofits that partner with industry in your country, guidance from your board of directors, and feedback from key stakeholders on what optimal partnerships look like and what types of partnerships your organization will or will not engage with. Take this information and create a document that highlights the key takeaways from your research and develop a plan. Another point that Patty made was around written agreements, and this is so important for all types of partnerships, including industry. Even the process of writing, editing, and finalizing a written agreement with a partner can bring forward areas that need to be addressed. Agreements can provide clear guidance on what the partnership consists of, which organization is responsible for specific deliverables, the timeline of the project, the review process, and more. On the networking topic, Kathy Traz talked about looking at contacts in the industry as the advocates for the advocates inside the company, and that really resonates with our experience. It is important to keep your contact at industry up to date with your organization's priorities and successes. With that in mind, think about what resources are needed to maintain relationships with industry partners. Questions to ask yourself include what types of communication, as well as frequency and content, would we plan on providing our partner? What type of reports would we be providing to the funder? For a sponsor of a 5K run, this could include total number of participants, media impressions, social media engagement, unique web visitors, and where they're recognized as a sponsor, as well as special recognition opportunities, such as having a speaking role at the event. When providing reports to sponsors of a program, only provide data that is in alignment with what you've established as an organization, with information that can be shared. In the example of the 5K, providing the number of participants is a common statistic to share about the size of the event, but sharing any personal information about the participants, such as the name or email address of the participants, is not. The Advocacy Exchange online platform that Kathy highlighted as a networking and educational opportunity is worth checking out. GCCA has been a proud partner with the Advocacy Exchange, and it really is a great opportunity to build new relationships and hear from expert speakers. It's also a great way to connect patients and caregivers with your organization. Thanks again to Hussein Jaffrey at the World Patients Alliance, Patty Jewell at Pfizer, and Kathy Traz at Bristol Myers Squibb. Thanks.